I never imagined that inviting a hungry stranger in would lead to a life-changing revelation. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air felt different, charged like electricity crackling just before a storm. I opened my door to find him tattered clothes, wild eyes filled with something I couldn't quite read. Hunger. Desperation. I couldn't look away at him. My heart raced. "Can I help you?" I asked, my voice trembling. He looked at me and I felt my insides twist. Those eyes, dark and deep, seemed to search my soul. How could a stranger make me feel so unsettled? I invited him in, even though the hairs on my neck stood up. The smell of old sweat and something metallic nearly knocked me backwards. My small living room, dimly lit by a single bulb, felt suddenly suffocating. What had I done? I glanced at the clock. Time was slipping away. He took a seat at my worn couch, the fabric frayed and full of stories. There was silence thick enough to cut. I dared to ask, "What's your name?" He looked down, his hands trembling as he fidgeted with the edge of his jacket. "Eli," he murmured, almost a whisper. I nodded, trying to keep my fear at bay. Why was he here? Ellis' eyes darted around my apartment. I saw his gaze lingering on the picture from Mesa, happy family captured in time. Smiles bright against a backdrop of laughter. My heart ached with memories. I missed them more than I could say. I felt Eli's curiosity pierce through my grief. "Do you have family?" he suddenly asked, his tone sharp, almost accusing. Caught me off guard. My breath hitched. The pain of loss threatened to swallow me. I stammered. "Once." His eyes softened. In those fleeting moments, I didn't just see a man in need, I saw a mirror reflecting my own loss, my aching heart. I wanted to scream, to run. But I was rooted to the spot. Then the atmosphere shifted. A storm rattled outside, sheets of rain hammering against my window like desperate fingers. The shadows danced, long and dark in the flickering light. I focused on Eli, who was now trembling, his expression changing as if a storm raged inside him too. "No one can help you," he said, and the way he said it froze me. My stomach dropped. "Not in the way you think." There was a weight in his words, an urgency that made my skin itch. What did he know? My heart pounded. The air turned heavy with unspoken truths. I felt as if a dark cloud had settled over us, wrapping tight, suffocating. I wanted to push further, to understand why this stranger had crossed into my life like a wraith, a hungry, desperate wraith with secrets swirling in his stormy eyes. And then he looked at me, really looked, and I swear I felt the ground tremble beneath us. "What if I told you that the answer you seek is closer than you think?" Tension climbed, heavy and unyielding. I was on the brink of something, and then it hit me. A chill spread through my bones. "What do you mean?" I gasped, my voice barely a whisper. Eli leaned closer, his eyes glinting with both fear and certainty. The truth seemed to hover in the air, electric, dangerous. Suddenly, a loud crash of thunder shook the room, echoing our trembling hearts. Everything felt wrong, as if the universe was aligning for an explosion of revelation, but I didn't know whether it would save or ruin me. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The rain poured harder, splattering against the window as if the heavens themselves were trying to wash away the heaviness choking the air between us. Ella's eyes, dark and stormy, darted around the cramped apartment before landing on a family photo hanging slightly askew. It was taken at the beach, the sun bright, the waves crashing, and all of us laughing, oblivious to the heartache that would come to claim our lives. "Tell me," Ella's voice broke through the rain's cacophony, "what do you miss the most?" His inquiry floated in the air like an echo of my own grief. Reflecting this moment back at me felt both invasive and intimate. I swallowed hard, trying to battle back the wave of memories that threatened to drown me. "Their laughter," I confessed, my voice cracking. "The little things like my daughter's giggle when I chase her through the sand, or my husband's teasing his head splash us both." The emotions cascaded over me so swiftly that I could hardly contain them. My heart squeezed painfully at the thought of the joy I once had, now flailing in the void. "Is that your answer?" Eli asked, tilting his head slightly as he studied my face, searching for something within my storm of emotions. Joy against the face of loss? That's not it. I felt a spark of defiance rise up, pushing through the grief. I didn't just lose them. I lost myself. I was a whole person back then. The words tasted sharp on my tongue, and I fought against the tears that threatened to fall. He nodded, his expression shifting, defiance intermingling with understanding. You still are. You just have to remember her. There was something powerful in that moment, filled with unspoken anguish and comprehension. I wished I could believe his words, wished I hadn't buried the remnants of that woman beneath layers of sorrow. Why do I need to remember? I started, but Eli interjected, because the answer is in your past, not just in your loss. It's a key. I stared at him, bewildered by his certainty. A key? To what? To understanding why this happened. His words came out sharp and pained, the timbre of his voice unsettling. You might think you've lost everything, but what if you haven't? An unbearable silence hung in the air, punctuated only by the relentless rain. My mind reeled. What do you know? Who are you? He leaned forward, his handwritten notes of life etched in every crease of his worn jacket. I'm someone who has faced a darkness of my own, one that connects us both. The storm outside mirrored the whirlwind raging within me. I felt a small flicker of hope, the possibility that I wasn't alone in this battle of shadows. But just as quickly, fear clawed at my throat. What truth was lurking beneath the surface of his cryptic words? I opened my mouth to speak, to pry deeper into the secrets he held. But then the sound of sirens wailed in the distance, slicing through the quiet. My heart raced as I pulled back. The moment felt bizarre, like we were supposed to welcome this revelation together. Yet the chaos of the world outside threatened to barge in. Eli, I whispered, panic creeping in. Are you hiding something? Is it dangerous? Are you dangerous? He searched my face for a moment, then placed a trembling hand over his heart, a grim acknowledgement of something fragile, something perhaps even sinister. What I'm carrying isn't just mine. It belongs to you too. My mind spun as uncertainty wrapped around me tighter than the shadows in the room. What do you mean? And without warning, a deafening crack of thunder shattered the air, drowning out Ellis' response. The windows rattled as rain poured heavier, as if nature were intent on obliterating everything with us in it, our fears, our pasts, our futures. Ellis' eyes darted once more, surprise washing over him before he turned back with a wild gaze. It's time you found out. I don't think we're safe here anymore. Before I could question what he meant, the lights flickered, and for the briefest moment, the room felt alive in a different way, the shadows swirling dangerously as if feeding on our fears. Then, as if the world had decided it could no longer bear witness, the lights went out entirely. The darkness settled like a thick blanket, stifling and cold. A jarring sound from outside silenced even the rain, a crash, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching. My heart raced as a rush of dread flooded through me. Eli, I whispered, trembling as I reached out for him in the suffocating dark, seeking comfort and certainty. But all I found was silence and the ghost of something deeper. A truth about to be unearthed, lurking just beyond our reach. What had I invited in? The darkness felt alive, a shroud that absorbed every sound, every breath. As I reached out into the void, my fingers grazed Eli's arm, chilled, and I instinctively flinched. He was still here, but the weight of the silence pressed down on us, making every heartbeat feel like a countdown to something inevitable. Stay close, his voice murmured, barely above a whisper, urgency threading through each word. I nodded, though fear knotted my stomach. The footsteps outside came closer. They were heavy and deliberate, like a predator stalking its prey. Who is it? I stammered, wishing desperately for the lights to flicker back to life, to banish the horror that seemed to claw at the periphery of our darkened world. People looking for me. Eli breathed, and the revelation rolled over me like a thunderclap. They don't know you, but they're not here for a friendly visit. My heart plummeted, entwined with confusion and dread. Why would they be looking for you? What are you hiding? I felt my pulse thrum in synchrony with the footsteps now making their way toward the front of the apartment. Each step echoed in my mind, and my instincts screamed at me to flee. They think I took something that belongs to them, he said, desperation spilling into his tone. Something that could shatter any hope of moving on for both of us. Shatter what hope? I pressed, the lines of fear and anger beginning to blur. My faith in him flexed beneath the strain of his words. How could he have dragged me into a deeper abyss when I was already fighting to see the light? I promise I'll explain, but I need you to trust me. If they find me here, they'll think you're involved, and I can't let that happen. Another crash outside shook the building, scattering debris like whispers of dread through the air. I pressed my palms against my ears to drown out the futile sound of my heart thudding through the silence, an unsteady tempo that paralleled the chaos outside. Where do we go? I felt my voice tremble, barely managing to anchor against the tide of panic. There's a passage, behind the bookshelf. It leads to the basement. It's our only chance. His urgency ignited a flicker of spirit in my chest, and as he dug his hands into the shadowy corner of the room, I moved closer to him, my skin prickling with 100 different worries. By now, fear was a familiar companion, but isolation was worse. I needed him as much as he needed me to make this decision. We clutched each other as he pulled the shelf aside, revealing a narrow door concealed in the wall. My breath caught at the dark abyss that opened before us. The world felt like it had fallen away, and the only thing remaining was this cold, steel-lined path that promised safety but threatened the unknown. Go, Eli urged softly, guiding me before him into the blackness. As my foot crossed the threshold, anxiety clashed with a fragment of hope, the chance of escape. We descended into the depths, every step echoing our shared fear and unspoken doubts. Each breath grew heavier, mingling with the damp air and an overwhelming sense of foreboding. What had I unwittingly committed to? Just as we reached the foot of the stairs, a rumble echoed above us, muffled by the walls that shielded us from the chaos outside. The footsteps stopped suddenly. An unsettling pause submerged us in uncertainty. Were they just listening? Or had they discovered the truth? With a quick glance back, Eli placed a finger against his lips, a signal to remain silent, while he moved deeper into the chamber beyond the stairs. I followed him into the shadowy abyss where the air thickened with stale decay, and memories of loss mingled with the raw pulse of survival. What next? I whispered into the dark, trepidation clawing at my throat. Just wait, Eli murmured, his form ghostly in the faintest slivers of light filtering from above. This will be over soon. Promise. But as we huddled together in the freezing haze of uncertainty, the footsteps resumed, more numerous this time, heavy and encroaching. Each thud reverberated through the concrete walls, a reminder of the shadows chasing our breaths. Ella's grip tightened around my hand, but before we could brace ourselves for the unknown, a shattering peal of thunder exploded above us, and the ground trembled. Something had collapsed, and what could only be described as the sound of a door being kicked and cut through the air. My heart stuttered as I gasped, "What are they doing?" "Eli, they're hunting you. We have to." Suddenly, the floor beneath us trembled one last time, and the dim light flickered again as shadows enveloped us completely unbeknownst to us. The hungry eyes had found a way in, breaking through the defenses we had built around ourselves, ready to devour the secrets we had fought to keep. The darkness was no longer just an absence of light. It felt alive, hungry, and dangerously close, forcing me to confront the possibility that I had invited not just Eli, but the very core of our intertwined destinies into a world of chaos, one that might unravel the fragile threads binding us together. Would we ever emerge unscathed from this plunge into darkness? The tremors subsided, leaving a silence that pulsed with anticipation. As the darkness enveloped us, I realized that every breath felt fraught with consequence. The weight of secrets hung heavy on my chest, reminding me of our precarious situation. Eli ran a hand through his disheveled hair, his eyes darting toward the source of the noise above. Fear etched deeper lines into his brow, and I could see the shadows of his past flickering behind his gaze. I wanted to reach out to reassure him, but my own panic pinned me in place. "How can you be sure that they won't find us?" I whispered, trembling as I recalled the chaos that had cascaded into our lives. "What if this isn't the first time I've faced them?" Eli interrupted quietly, his voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of dread. "I thought it was over, but they never let go. They'll do anything to reclaim what I took." "What did you take?" It was a question I dared not ask, yet the urgency to understand surged forth. I needed answers not just for my own peace of mind, but for the flickering hopes that resided within my heart. He hesitated, a painful shadow crossing his face. "It isn't simple. I didn't intend to steal it, it just happened. I witnessed something I shouldn't have. The price of knowledge is often too steep." Confusion washed over me like icy water. What knowledge? Can't we talk about this now? They'll hear us. His voice dropped lower, and I could almost feel the shivers of distant steps echoing through the air. If they get an inkling that I'm down here with you, they won't hesitate to act. A shudder plagued my limbs, and I felt helpless in the face of this unknown threat looming just above where we hid. So what do we do? I didn't sign up for this when I let you in. I know, he replied, a sincerity in his voice that flickered like a candle in a storm. I wish I could erase the past and save you from this. But if we get out of here, it'll make it right. I swear. Before I could respond, a sudden crashing sound jolted through the silence, freezing the blood in my veins. They're searching. They'll realize we're gone soon. I gasped, desperation clawing at my throat. Ellis' grip tightened around my hand as he pulled me deeper into the darkness. This way. We need to find a way out before they come down. I know a way through the catacombs. Catacombs? I echoed, the word steeped in echoes of death and despair. Eli, please, can't we wait? Just for a moment? I had so many questions, too many chains of worry linking my thoughts. Oh, we can't, he insisted, urgency sharpened in his tone. I need you to trust me just a little longer. His eyes held a fierce determination that both terrified and captivated me, pulling me along as we navigated the darkened corridor, lined with cold stone walls that seemed to whisper forgotten secrets. Yet, in the heart of my fear, his presence ignited a flicker of hope, tightening the bond between us, urging me onward despite the uncertainty that loomed just ahead. Every step carried us deeper into the shadows, but it was amidst the darkness that I felt an unexpected spark of connection. If Eli was dragging me into a world of chaos, it was also a world where I found a purpose greater than my own. I was by his side, and that meant something. Suddenly, a glimmer of light broke through the darkness, causing my heart to flutter with longing for escape. Eli halted abruptly, and I felt the urgency radiate from him. Keep low, he instructed, leading us toward the faint glow. Crouching behind a row of crates, I peered beyond their shelter, my breath quickening as I glimpsed a figure moving in the distance. The faint outline illuminated by flickering bulbs revealed a man, cloaked in shadows, speaking urgently into a phone. They know we're gone, the man said, frustration threading through his voice. Search every room. We need to find him before he gets away again. My heart sank into a cold abyss of dread. This was if danger pressed intimately close, cloaked in the echo of my worst fears. He was searching for Eli. Not just Eli, I sensed Eli's voice beside me, his eyes wide in realization. They're coming for both of us. An all-consuming anxiety flooded my system, yet in that moment, I caught sight of a crumpled note that fluttered from the man's pocket. It seemed entirely out of place, an unexpected kindness hidden amidst the chaos. Without thinking, I reached for it. No, Eli hissed, but it was too late. My fingers brushed the note, and the moment I grasped it, the world around us shifted. The light flickered again, revealing something. Something familiar, something that felt like hope edged with apprehension. Wait, what's that? Eli leaned closer, and as I unfolded the note, the words caught the dim light, and in a heartbeat, the weight of revelation bore down on us. I never imagined that inviting a hungry stranger in would lead to a life-changing revelation. The note unveiled a name, the Collective. A name that sent shudders through my body and exposed a chilling window into the world Eli had tried to shield me from. Before I could utter a question, dread washed over Ella's face. We have to move now. They'll hunt us whether we're ready or not. And just like that, with the echo of his words weighing on my heart, the flickering light dissolved, and the shadows reclaimed the space around us. In that instant we vanished from sight, swallowed by the darkness and tethered to an unknown fate, left only with the haunting echo of a name that might lead us to salvation or damnation. The darkness enveloped us once more, pressing against my skin as a chill descended deeper than the stone walls that confined us. I clutched the note tightly, its edges biting into my palm, the words dancing in my mind like a cruel riddle. The Collective. An organization that had somehow threaded its way into our lives, our secrets. Eli, we can't just run, I whispered, my voice barely breaking the oppressive silence. We need a plan. We need to know what we're up against. He continued to lead us through the dimly lit catacombs, urgency painting his features in stark relief against the gloom. Trust me, he replied, though the tremor in his voice betrayed the certainty he was trying to project. The walls have ears, and if we stop, we risk being found. Each footfall echoed in the hushed corridors, and I could feel the weight of Ella's fears pressing in on me. I wanted to understand, to give him the comfort of knowing I was right there alongside him in this ordeal. But my heart ached with questions, the foremost being, who was this collective and why was it so threatening to him? As we rounded a corner, the flickering light overhead created an ominous dance of shadows, and I caught a glimpse of something shiny on the ground, a locket. I knelt to pick it up, the fabric of Ella's urgency clashing against the tendrils of my curiosity. "Don't," he started, alarm painting his tone, but I was already entranced by the delicate work. The locket was engraved with swirling designs, its hinges cool and inviting. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Inside was a photograph of a woman, her face radiant but shrouded in sorrow. My breath hitched as I recognized the familiar features, Ella's mother. The sight sent a shock through me, splintering the fragile walls I'd tried to build around my heart. "Eli," I started, but he snatched the locket from my hands, interposing himself between me and the memories it released. The sorrow etched into his eyes was suddenly a mirror reflecting pain I had not known resided there. "Don't. Just don't," he said, regret flooding his voice. "She's gone. It's better if you forget about this." "But it's you," I pressed. "She's tied to you, your past. This isn't just about the collective. It's about you not wanting to confront what's lost." A beat passed, tension thick enough to slice through. "What's lost is lost for a reason," he declared, a flash of fierce pain in his resolved glare. My heart sank further, the echoes of the past crashing against the present. "You're right, it might be lost, but running and hiding won't change that. You can't keep carrying it alone." "Eli," he exhaled sharply, anger transitioning into vulnerability. "It isn't just that. I've spent years trying to shield you from this chaos, from this darkness. The collective will use any weakness to pull me back in, and I can't let them to get to you through me. The locket, the memory is there, all strings that can unravel what I've tried to build." I took a step closer, my hand reaching out to him, but the shadows closed in again. "You're stronger than you know, Eli. It doesn't have to be just your burden. You don't have to face this alone." That I could see him wavering, the fight within him dimming, but just as hope flickered to life, we heard the unmistakable sounds of footsteps approaching, heavy and insistent. The air shifted, thickening with the reality of danger lurking just a heartbeat away. "Stay close," he murmured, shoving the locket into his pocket with a fervent finality. "We can't let them discover us." But as we darted deeper into the corridors, the words of the note pulsed in my mind. The collective. I clung to Ella's arm, the roughness of the stone walls scraping against my fingertips grounding me in the moment, even as my heart raced with fear. Wherever we ended up, I knew too much more than I ever bargained for. The shadows cast by our pasts intertwined with the present, coiling around us like rippling smoke. And with each hurried breath, the silent promise between us coalesced. We had to confront what lay ahead, or it would consume us. Suddenly, we reached a desolate chamber, lit by ghostly rays of flickering light filtering through cracks in the ceiling above. My stomach twisted instinctively. Something was wrong. I could feel the weight of unseen eyes watching us. "Eli, we can't," I started, but he cut me off. "Wait," he hissed low, squinting into the dimness of the cavernous space. A figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked and ominous. My breath caught in my throat as recognition ignited a fire inside me. It was the man we had seen earlier, the one searching for Eli, now silhouetted against the glimmers of light. "You really thought you could escape?" he drawled, a dark smile stretching across his lips as he stepped forward. "The collective will always find you. You're just playing into their hands." My heart raced with the pulse of dread. Another ineffable bond forming between us. Ella's grip tightened around my wrist, the warmth of his presence urging me forward. But just as I felt the thrill of rebellion stir inside me, the man chuckled low, malicious enjoyment shining in his eyes. "Did you really think you could be saved?" he mocked, leaning in closer, his breath rancid with secrets. "This was only ever meant to lead you here. They won't let you go." And as he spoke, a flicker of light glinted off something in his hand, a weapon, aimed squarely at us. In that moment the world shifted, a kaleidoscope of fears shaping reality as the true nature of the conflict we were ensnared within clawed at the fabric of our lives, unraveling everything we thought we knew. The shadows thickened, and I thought of the locket, the vulnerability it represented, and realized how perilously close we stood to losing everything we were fighting for. The silence of the chamber hung between us like a taut wire, vibrating with the threat of what was to come. Ellis' eyes were aflame with urgency, his complexion pale against the dim light, and I could see the thoughts racing through his mind as he processed the looming danger before us. "Stay back," Eli warned, his voice firm, though it trembled slightly as he faced the cloaked figure. "You don't understand what you're playing with." The man merely sneered, his demeanor infuriatingly calm, like he was watching a play unfold rather than confronting two lives spiraling into chaos. The weapon glinted menacingly in his hand, a chilling reminder that our fragile defiance might cost us dearly. "Playing? Oh no, you are the ones who are just beginning to comprehend the game," the stranger retorted, his voice dripping with malice. "The collective has been watching you for much longer than you realize. You've unwittingly sowed the seeds of your own destruction." A wave of nausea washed over me at his words. I remained rooted to the spot, grappling with the weight of his accusation. What had we done to draw the collective's eye? What were they capable of? Questions flooded my mind, but the most pressing one was whether we had enough strength left to fight back against this looming darkness. Ellis' fingers curved around his wrist, grounding me as his presence morphed from terrified vulnerability to a protective shield. "You want take her," he growled, standing slightly in front of me as if he could physically block what was coming. The man chuckled, the sound echoing ominously within the chamber. "That's where you're mistaken. You're already too deep in the web. If I wanted her, she'd be gone before you even thought to intervene." Panic surged through me. I wanted to scream at the absurdity of it all, the insufferable chain of events that led us here, our failed attempts at escape, and the darkness the collective represented. But instead of crying out, I grasped Ellis' arm tightly, drawing strength from him. "What do they want?" I whispered, my voice barely audible yet edged with determination. The stranger's eyes flickered momentarily with something akin to pity. "They want what is rightfully theirs. You think this is about survival? This is about control. Your little journey of rebellion, it's an invitation. They crave the chaos, the struggle, the purity of fighting against the inevitable." With that, he advanced a step closer, the weapon raised. I swallowed hard, my breath constricting. "Eli," I breathed, fear gripping my throat. "We can't let him." A sudden movement from Eli interrupted me. Without abandoning his protective stance, he quickly darted backward, somehow managing to put distance between us and the figure. "We won't be your pawns," he yelled, his voice resolute. "We will take control of our own fate." I marveled at the depth of emotion in his dedication. His voice rang out against the shadows, dispelling some of the darkness surrounding us. But as our resolve clashed against the figure's unyielding intent, I felt an undeniable weight press upon my heart, the burden of the unknown consequences for our defiance. The man smirked, the glint of amusement lurking in his wicked expression. "Defiance doesn't scare them. It only makes them eager to see you fall. You will soon understand the consequences of your choices." With a swift motion, he turned his back to us and began retreating into the deeper shadows of the chamber. "Don't think this is over. It's merely the beginning." His parting words echoed through the silence, melded with the sound of footsteps fading away into the abyss. Eli turned to me, his face a mixture of anger and fear, his eyes reflecting the suffering head tried so hard to conceal. "They know us more than we know ourselves. We can't let that man or the collective get into our heads." Tears welled in my eyes, threatening to spill over. "Eli, what if we can't stop them? What if they use those we care about against us?" His expression softened, a flicker of something tender breaking through the embers of his defiance. "We will fight them. Together. Promise you that." But the fire in his eyes flickered, and I could see the wheels turning in his mind, the fear of losing control tightening the lines of his brow as we sank back into silence. The enormity of the conflict hit me. We were racing against time now, with the weight of every decision crashing down upon us. But even within that creeping despair, an ember kindled deep inside, the hope that maybe, just maybe, the bond we shared was strong enough to withstand even this shadowy threat. But just as I began to foster that hope, the tremors of footsteps echoed in the distance again, familiar and haunting. My heart surged with panic as a new realization settled over me like an icy shroud. We weren't alone in the darkness anymore. "Eli," I gasped, clinging to his arm, "we need to find a way out now." And in that moment, as we turned to flee, the flickering light caught a glimpse of movement in the shadows, a figure emerging, someone I hadn't seen in a long time. My breath hitched, the realization flooding through me like icy water. It was someone from my past, someone I never thought I would see again. And the truth they carried could unravel everything I thought I knew. "Don't you remember me?" The voice came, echoing through the chamber, wrapping around the memories I had buried deep within. My heart raced, caught in a tempest of recognition and dread. What did they want, and how were they intertwined with the collective? As the flickering light intensified, I understood with staggering clarity that in confronting one enemy, we had unwittingly drawn another into the fray. And just like that, the fragile threads binding our fate to an unseen war snapped, leaving us teetering on the precipice of the unknown. The echoes of the past reverberated around the chamber, intertwining with the growing shadows that now seemed almost sentient. I took a step back, my mind racing as the figure emerged fully into the light. It was her, the very specter of my childhood. Kara, my sister, who I thought had vanished into the depths of memory and silence, stood before me, a ghost clad in sorrow. "Why? Why are you here?" I stammered, my heart tangled in a web of disbelief and longing. The years spent wondering what had happened, the gnawing guilt that had plagued Minnow, it all surged back with a vengeance. Eli instinctively stepped closer, his own protective instinct flaring as he faced the sister I never fully understood how to mourn. "What have you done?" Ellis' growl was tense, reflecting the danger he sensed before him. Kara's expression, once fraught with innocence, was now hardened by whatever trials had taken her away from me. "I know what you're going through. I know what they've done to our lives," she said, her voice low, threaded with urgency and pain. "But it's worse than you think. It's not just the collector who's watching." "Then who?" I whispered, the fear spilling over into palpable confusion. She took a hesitant step toward us, her gaze darting around the chamber, perhaps sensing the weight of unseen eyes. "They've been recruiting. Finding those with abilities that align with their goals, those they can control. I'm here because I made a choice. A choice to embrace the darkness in order to understand it, to find you. They're using me as a pawn now, just like you." Ellis' grip on my arm tightened at her words, a flare of protectiveness radiating from him. "What do you mean, just like us? We're not their puppets," he spat, but even in his defiance, I saw the quiver of uncertainty in his stare. Kara looked at him with a flicker of curiosity, then quickly returned her gaze to me. "I'm here to warn you." She hesitated, her brows knitting together. "This door, this place, it's a nexus. An entry point into the collective's inner workings. If we don't leave, they'll funnel every semblance of power you and Eli have, drawing you deeper into their grasp. Then help us get out," I urged, fighting against the swell of emotions that threatened to overwhelm me. "We can do this together. I won't let them take us." She shook her head slowly, her own fear palpable. "It's not that simple. You don't know how deep it goes. The collective has eyes everywhere. They will come for you. With me here, they might already be tracking us." Just as her words settled in, the air shifted, and a cold breeze swept through the chamber, sending a shiver down my spine. It felt like the darkness was breathing around us, closing in with a sense of urgency and inevitability. "Get behind me," Eli commanded, his voice fierce as he maneuvered me to safety. Adrenaline coursed through the air, mingling with the desperation pooling in my heart. But Kara's presencia, ghost from a life I tried to escape, twisted my thoughts. How could I trust her now? "Eli, wait!" I shouted, but he was already distancing himself from her. Eyes locked on a flurry of shadows converging at the edges of the chamber. "If we leave now, we might never get another chance." Kara reached out, her hand trembling as she tried to bridge the distance Eli had created. "If you trust me, there's a passage. But they'll come for you hard. And if you don't want to be caught in their web, we need to act quickly." "Trust you?" Eli warned, his voice low but steadfast. "You've been with them, haven't you? How do we know you're not just luring us into another trap?" Pain flickered across Kara's face, and something almost soulful emanated from her that felt wildly at odds with the sinister shadows surrounding us. "I'm not the enemy," she cried, desperation lacing her voice. "I don't want to be part of this anymore either. Please, I just want us to be safe." Before I could respond, the dim light flickered violently, plunging us into an encroaching darkness. I felt it then, the primal instinct to salvage what little hope remained. I stepped forward, drawn toward the sister whose fate intertwined with mine. Her eyes were a reflection of my own fears, deepened by layers of experiences I had yet to uncover. Just then, A new sound cut through the thick silencia, low, malicious whispering that seemed to resonate from the very walls of the chamber. "You think you can escape?" it taunted, sending cold dread flooding through me. "You've already made your choice, and we're coming for you, for each of you, Eli," I cried as shadows twisted, morphing into shapes with intent. "Stay close," he shouted back, panic threading his voice, but I felt all the warmth from earlier freeze into a chilling grip of uncertainty. With every instinct urging me to flee, I faced the truth we now shared. There was no path laid before us, only the crushing inevitability of looming peril. As the whispering grew louder, a spark of painful clarity struck me. If we were to survive this, betrayal could lurk in any form, even within our own flesh and blood. Kara glanced at me one last time, the haunting sorrow in her gaze shifting to something more resolute. "We're in this together, whether you like it or not," she breathed, and with that echoing against the dark edges of our new reality, we stood on the precipice of revelation, waiting for either the dawn of hope or the shadow of betrayal to consume us whole. The chamber pulsed with a sense of foreboding as Kara's words planted themselves in my mind like seeds of doubt, growing wild and feral. The shadows tightened around us, a tangible dark clamoring to be heard, radiating an almost sentient hunger. Eli's jaw clenched, and I could see him battling the urge to cry out against the unseen menace that surrounded us, juxtaposed with his instinct to protect me at all costs. The terror in his eyes mirrored my own. A silent understanding passed between us, formed from the dread pooling in our veins. "Stay strong, Kaya," he murmured under his breath, though I could hear the tremor veiling his resolve. It was as if he were trying to steel himself against the growing storm surrounding us. I turned back to Kara, searching her expression for signs of assurance. "How do we know this isn't just another trap?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Because I love you," she said softly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You were always the light, Kaya. I did what I had to in order to find you." For a moment her confession hung in the air, heavy and laden with the weight of misplaced years, and I was reminded of our childhood, filled with laughter and shared secrets. Was it possible that within the shadows of her past lay a flicker of truth that could still guide us? "Then show me this passage," I pressed, hesitation skirmishing with hope. "Please." Kara nodded, urgency igniting her movements. "This way. Trust me," she implored, beginning to lead us deeper into the chamber where the light flickered ominously, pulsating like a heart in the throes of fear. Eli was tentative but followed close behind me, maintaining his role as my protector while keeping a wary eye on Kara. I could feel the strain between him and her, a dagger's edge of distrust slicing through their fragile alliance. As we hurried through the chamber, shadows writhed around us, flickering like phantoms dodging the light. The air thickened, charged with electric anticipation, and I gripped Eli's hand tightly, the warmth grounding my spiraling thoughts. "What if she's right?" I murmured, half to him, half to the uncertainty enveloping us. "Right about what? Playing us like fools?" Eli shot back, his voice sharp, but I could hear the fear threading through his bravado. "We're not just going to follow her blindly, Kaya." I wanted to argue, to challenge the rising voices of panic that suggested I should doubt her. But what if this was our only chance? We have to at least consider her words. She came back for us. The small ember of hope struggling to ignite flared within me, demanding its place against the murky uncertainty. Then came the jarring sound, the rattling of chains echoing from the deepest recesses of the chamber, a sound that sent icy tendrils skimming down my spine. Kara froze, her breath hitching as her eyes widened, and in that moment, I could sense the past unfurling behind her. "They're coming," she breathed, barely containing the urgency that thrummed through her voice. "We need to hurry." At that instant, the flickering light extinguished completely, plunging us into an oppressive darkness. Panic surged, and the shadows took on heavier shapes, almost palpable. I squeezed Eli's hand, his reassuring grip holding me in place amidst the chaos. We were teetering on the precipice of something unfathomable. "Follow my voice," Kara urged, stepping forward, her shadow a thin wisp barely visible in the dark. The inaudible entities lurking now felt like twisting, hungry mouths waiting to devour us whole. "Hold on to me," Eli commanded, his resolve hardened. "No matter what happens, don't let go." I could barely find my breath, but I somehow nodded, emboldened by his steadfastness. Together we moved as one, linked through fear and desperation, hoping against hope for a resolution in this madness. Suddenly, we stumbled into an adjoining chamber, the air charged with an intensity that made my heart race. Blue sparks crackled among the walls, illuminating the edges and casting a haunting glow over Kara's face. "This is it," she panted, breathless from urgency and fear. "The passage is just beyond here." Without warning, the walls shuddered, a deep growl rattling through the unyielding stone. "They're here," Kara whispered, panic rippling through her. Just as she pointed toward a narrow crack in the wall, the chamber began to tremble violently. "Run!" Eli shouted, propelling me forward as shadows surged at our heels, venomous and clawing for our flesh. My heart pounded fiercely, drowning out the chaos, as I pushed myself through the crack that Kara had indicated. Eli and Kara followed closely, but as I turned to glance back at the chaos, everything shifted in a flash. Kara's hand slipped suddenly from Ellis, her scream piercing the air, raw and full of despair. "No!" Eli yelled as shadows engulfed her, their wicked embrace visible even in the frenzied tumult. In that split second, I realized the depth of the danger that unfurled around us and the risk we'd taken by placing our trust in a figure who was driven by her own desperate choices. I couldn't breathe. Panic seized, muffled my lungs and armored my heart. Eli hurled himself back toward state of confusion, but the shadows rolled around us like a living entity, thrumming with menace. "Get out!" Kara cried, her voice a haunting echo melding with the shadows. "Keep going." I felt the earth shifting beneath my feet, the darkness clawing at my very essence, but Ella's grip tightened once more, pulling me free from the clutches of despair. We stumbled forward, lungs aching, hearts racing, but now a palpable crack had formed in our makeshift family as we tore through the passage, leaving Kara behind. Panic mixed with confusion left me gasping for clarity. In that moment of loss, the shadows seemed to sigh, reveling in the betrayal. Eli, I struggled against the weight of my emotions, but words faltered, a chasm opening between us. "Just keep moving," he whispered, determination replacing the flicker of fear in his eyes. But the resolve in him felt like a fragile dam against the storm, teetering on the brink. As we pressed forward into that uncertain darkness, the truth remained buried, tangled like roots gripping the earth. What we would find on the other side could either be our salvation or our undoing, and with every step away from Kara, we plunged deeper into the inevitable shadow of our destiny. The passage was narrow, its walls closing in like a shroud, leaving little room for the air to breathe. I pressed forward, half-heartedly aware of Eli's presence beside me, the warmth of his body a stark contrast to the chill creeping in from all sides. Each step felt heavy, laden with regret over leaving Kara behind, and regret mingled with an uncertain feeling that had taken root in my heart. Instinctively, I threw a glance over my shoulder, but the darkness had swallowed her, leaving no trace of the sister I once laughed with, the one who had been a beacon in my life, even amidst our tangled past. "Do you think she'll be okay?" I managed to breathe out, my voice breaking the silence, mingling with the haunting echoes of our hurried footsteps. Eli paused, his face etched with conflict. "We can't think about that now. We have to focus on us." But uncertainty shadowed his eyes. There was fear, but also a resolution that whispered of his own inner battle. "What she did, maybe she was trying to protect us," he added, almost as an afterthought, glancing back toward the dark void that had consumed whatever hope we had left behind. His words hung in the air, stirring that tempest raging within me. "And at what cost?" I shot back, my voice rising in desperation. Kara's desperation led us into this mess, and now she's gone. The rawness of my emotions erupted, flooding the narrow passage with a heaviness that felt as tangible as the shadows creeping along the walls. "Kaya," Eli said, his voice softer now, yet filled with a weight that pressed down on both of us. "We can't give in to despair. Anger won't help her or us." He reached out, brushing a stray hair from my face, his touch grounding me amidst the chaos. "We have to keep moving. We might still find a way back." The flicker of hope he offered ignited momentarily, but with every step into the labyrinth of darkness, that light threatened to go out. I turned away, moving deeper into the passage, where even the air thickened, suffocating dreams and demands for clemency, leaving only the hastening beat of our hearts. That we pressed onward, navigating the twists and turns of the passage, until the ground beneath us changed. The stone felt rougher, jagged and exposed, almost alive as tremors ran through it. Suddenly, a frantic scratching echoed from behind, and instinctually, I clutched at Ella's wrist tighter, the panic rising once again. "What is that?" I gasped. "I don't know," he replied, the resolve in his voice wavering, glancing back as the rattling grew louder. Shadows seemed to dance at the edges of our vision, coiling around us like creeping vines, hungry and unrelenting. Before I could formulate a response, the world around us exploded in a cacophony of chaos as several shadows coalesced and charged toward us. Eli pushed me behind him, his body a shield against the encroaching darkness. "Stay behind me!" he exclaimed, eyes wide. I felt quivers of fear ripple through me, each one quieted by the fierce determination emanating from his stance, and just then, before terror could swallow us whole, a blinding flash erupted from an unseen source, illuminating the passage in a way that sent the shadows scattering, shrieking as they lost their grip on the reality we had slipped into. The sudden brightness showed us an old, forgotten courtyard that emerged beyond the depths of the passage, lush weeds and ancient stones wrapped around the remnants of what once was. "As this?" I trailed off, trying to make sense of the sudden shift, but Eli was already moving, urgency igniting his footsteps. "Maybe it's a way out," he shouted, darting toward the open air. But as he crossed the threshold, a jagged crack rang out, reverberating through the stone as a large figure birthed itself from the lingering shadows, a being woven in despair, its eyes glowing like molten fire. "Leave this place," the figure bellowed, voice like splintering glass, and Eli halted, fear rippling across his expression. This was no mere shadow, it was something alive, something sentient roaming the uncharted realms where darkness thrive. "We don't want to fight," I found myself shouting, stepping forward instinctively, though every sense screamed for me to retreat. "We just want to go home." The figure paused, the glowing eyes narrowing in consideration. "Home? What makes you believe you deserve a return?" The voice was a blend of agonized echo and haunting curiosity, discussing a truth too profound for comprehension. Ella's hand found mine, fingers entwining with mine, a silent plea to step back. But my breath hitched, compelled to stand firm. "Because we didn't come here to hurt anyone. We're searching for what was lost, something sacred, something worth fighting for." The desperate plea poured from my heart, breathless and uncontrolled, desperation ringing in my voice as I struggled to carve a path into the monster's understanding. The figure hovered closer, darkness shifting and swirling unsettlingly before us. I saw flickers of sorrow and longing in its eyes, a reflection not quite separate from the fragments of my own despair. But then, a voice threaded through the silence behind me and sent chills dancing down my spine. Kayakera's voice, raw and distant, drifted from the depths of the shadows. "I need you to remember not all shadows are what they seem." A chill of dread suffocated my hope as I turned to see her standing at the threshold, partially shadow, partially flesh, but distinctly alive. "Kara!" I screamed, but my voice was swallowed by the laughter of the figure. "Choose wisely, little light," it hissed with glee, dark tendrils extending toward both of us as echoes of despair wafted through the courtyard. With every ounce of my being, I stepped into the chaos unraveling around us, feeling the weight of decisions thrumming against the horizon of fate. How much longer could we navigate this treacherous interplay of trust and betrayal? As I looked at Kara's fractured figure and felt Eli's hand grip mine like a lifeline, I realized that the darkness was more than a curse, it was a trial. Standing between the shadow and the woman I thought I knew, I breathed in the chaos, fully aware of one undeniable truth. Every choice we made from here could cascade into repercussions beyond imagination. And as shadows loomed closer, ready to consume the light we fought so hard to protect, my heart settled into the undeniable truth of our human plight. We could run no longer. The shadows pressed in closer, whispering secrets as they flickered like restless phantoms around us. My heart raced, caught in the tempest of panic and uncertainty. I wrestled with the disparate strands of my emotions, memories of my sister mingling with the palpable despair of this living darkness. Eli stood firm at my side, his grip a steady anchor against the uncertainty swirling around us, yet even he seemed uncertain, in the brink of some deeper truth waiting to unravel. "I won't lose you too, Kaya," he murmured, his voice a steady pulse in the chaos. I could see the fragility glinting in his eyes, a mirror to my own fears. With Kara half shrouded in shadow, the battlefield of family ties threatened to fracture under the weight of our collective anguish, everyone teetering on the edge of a precipice that could either lead us to resolution or bind us in despair. "Neither of us will fall into darkness," I promised, but deep down doubt clawed at me. How could I safeguard what felt so fragile? The figure before us twisted within its own shadows, reducing the world outside to distant echoes. It snickered, its malevolence palpable, coiling around us, feeding on our uncertainties. Did you hear that? I hissed, terror coloring my words. It's not just targeting Eli. It has you in its sights too. The fear I felt, threaded with urgency, urged me forward. We have to confront it together. This moment is pivotal. Eli glanced between Kara and the figure, trying to piece together the strands of truth while fear laced his brow. What do you want? He demanded, voice wavering as he wrestled against the turmoil rapid-firing in his mind. The figure chuckled darkly, the mocking sound sending chills skittering across my skin. I desire what you all do. Understanding, possession, chaos. The very essence of your desires and fears. I can taste it, what you are not willing to remember, what you buried, it taunted, its shadowy form shifting like thick fog as it advanced toward us. Kara's eyes glimmered with unspent tears of defiance. What do you mean, what I buried? I thought I lost everything. Her voice quivered, clinging desperately to the fragments of her identity that still flickered deep within the shadows. You don't understand. I had to choose survival over sentiment. Ella's expression contorted with confusion, morphing into something pure and fierce, an understanding that transcended words. No one must choose between light and darkness, Kara. We all deserve a chance to emerge whole. The figure howled in laughter, a cacophony of dread and hunger as it lunged closer, dark tendrils swirling, weaving an inescapable net, hungry to consume the souls huddled under its shadow. You think it's all so grand, don't you? But tell me, little girl, what light shines when faced with the abyss? It reveled in the threat, summoning echoes of despair from the corners of the chamber, a maleficent song that sought to drown us. I looked into Ella's eyes, that fierce flame burning bright, and suddenly, I knew what we needed to do. The only darkness that will reign is the one we allow ourselves to be confined by. I shouted, my voice breaking through the storm. We will not be ensnared by the shadows. We have the power to rewrite our stories, as if my declaration shattered some unseen barriers. A brilliant light erupted from deep within me, a warmth radiating outward like a sunrise chasing the night. The shadows recoiled, screeching in agony as I felt my sister step closer, her half-shrouded form beginning to shimmer with the light that once illuminated our childhood. Together, I commanded, the words pulsing with the conviction coursing through my veins. We have always been stronger together. Break free of this. Eli reached out, grasping my hand in a firm grip, and together we stepped forward, our combined light pushing against the enveloping darkness. Kara, join us. He urged, certainty reflecting in his every word. We were stronger when bound by choice, fighting for one another rather than apart. With a trembling resolve, Kara stepped forward, the shadows around her melting away like snow in the sun. What if I've led you astray? What if there's nothing waiting for us but despair? She whispered, her voice barely above a breath. There's a chance, I countered, a chance we fight for each other. Embrace your light. The words felt like an invocation, resonating with the essence of familiar bond that had persevered through even the darkest of storms. Kara's eyes brightened, reflecting a spark of understanding. I will not be shackled by my past, she said, holding her head high. I will fight alongside you. And in that moment, a shift happened. The figure shrieked as our collective light grew, a blinding brilliance transforming our fears into shimmering constellations. Shadows whirled and collided, trapped in the swirling tempest of what had anchored us. The oppressive force that had once threatened to consume us fragmented and oscillated in chaos, gnashing and thrashing wildly against the purity radiating from our unity. Together we manifested our memories, the love, laughter, shared dreams, and forged them into a shield against the darkness. As the shadows retreated, losing their voracious grip, I felt a profound change sweep over us. We were not merely survivors, we were illuminated by hope and unwavering love. Go back to the darkness from which you came. I shouted, pure conviction fueling my words. The figure writhed, casting flickering shadows as I felt the grip of fear shriveling away. With one final blinding pulse, our light swept forward, banishing the figure back into the void from whence it arose. The self-woven bonds we had laid down together coalesced into a radiant tapestry, stitching our fates together in a luminous embrace. The courtyard resonated with an almost palpable silence, the air alive with echoes of triumph. Eli turned toward me, his expression weary yet overflowing with resilience. I could see the warmth in his gaze mirror what ignited within my heart against the backdrop of darkness. We had carved out a sanctuary made from love and vulnerability. Kara stood beside us, no longer an apparition of despair but a sister bathed in the glow of reconciliation, the shadows around her fading into a quiet surrender. "Will we be okay now?" she questioned, hope mingling with uncertainty. I reached out and grasped her hand, intertwining our fingers as strands of light connecting us into a bond capable of weathering any storm. "Together we will find our way," I promised, gazing between the two people who meant everything to me. "We've embraced our past, let it forge us anew, and now our journey begins." The sun broke through the remnants of storm clouds, illuminating the once shadowed courtyard with a warmth that felt hard-won. We stepped forward, hand in hand, ready to embrace whatever life had in store, knowing that no darkness could ever dim the power of the light born from love, family, and acceptance. And in that moment, I realized that sometimes inviting in a stranger, whether darkness or light, might lead to revelations that change the very fabric of our lives. Forgiveness breathes life into the shadows, transforming them into brilliance. As we walked into the light, I knew that whatever came next wouldn't break us. It would only help us rise, strong and unyielding, forever changed. From that moment, I understood there was a deeper truth. It was not about unearthing the ghosts that haunted our past but about celebrating the resurgence of the light we carried within, resilient and unabashed. The whispers of the shadows faded, and amidst the shifting tides of destiny, I drew in a breath, my heart echoing the promise no darkness could smother. "Together," I whispered, feeling blessed by the collision of hearts in this journey. It was a truth that settled warm and radiant within my soul.